Welcome to WonderCon 2021 and a very special welcome to the Titan Comics Blade Runner Origins panel. My name's Andrew Sumner, I'm the EVP at Titan and I'm also the host of Forbidden Planet TV, which you can find on YouTube. And I am privileged to be joined by this amazing creative team we have on Blade Runner. So right in front of you, right here and now, we have Kay Perkins, the author of Supergirl, Superwoman, Wonder Woman, Batwoman for DC Comics, and the co-author of Blade Runner Origins. We have Mellow Brown, one of the authors from the American Gods TV show, also the author of many awesome up-and-coming projects that I cannot tell you about, but I can tell you that Mellow is the co-creator of Blade Runner Origins. We have the hearty Stakhanovite futurist that is Mike Johnson, the very backbone of the Titan Comics Blade Runner line, who you will have seen, no doubt seen much of his awesome work on Star Trek as well, and his great books for DC and his Star Trek Green Lantern crossover, one of my personal favorites. Perkins, Mellow, Mike, welcome. It's good to see you all.
Thanks for having us.
Oh, it's a pleasure. It's a pleasure to have you here. And last but not least, we have Britain's greatest comic book editor, and that is not hyperbole, it is merely a fact. Titan's senior creative editor, David Leach, also the creator of the comic books Psycho Gran, and a comic book I recommend to everybody. You have to pick up this independent title. David Leach Conquers the Universe. If you've never read that comic book, it is a treat and you've got to dig it out. It's amazing. Also, my friend of 30 years. How you doing, big guy?
I'm very well, thank you for that. That's very nice of you.
That's the least I could do, and it's all true. So, guys, you are the editorial and creative team on our latest Blade Runner project, which we're extremely proud of, Blade Runner Origins. So, and by the way, the art for that title is by Fernando Dagnino, who is just an amazing talent, who you may know from Resurrection Man, you may know from his epic work on Suicide Squad, and that great Green Lantern prequel he did with Sinestro. Just an amazing talent who was once exclusive to DC, but is now illustrating Blade Runner for us, and we are much the better for it. So guys, how did each of you end up working on Titan's Blade Runner comics?
Should go chronologically?
Go chronologically. You're the genesis of this stuff.
No, the real genesis, the power behind it all is Michael Green, who is not. I was going to say is not with us. He's
no longer with us,
as far as I know.
That's because Death on the Nile keeps on getting delayed, mate.
That's right. That's a little inside baseball. Michael Green, co-writer of the amazing Blade Runner 2049 movie, was approached by Titan to launch their Blade Runner comics, and he reached out to me as we had done a bunch of comics together over the years. And I signed on. We launched Blade Runner in 2019, and then I was actually going to ask Perkins to come and write that with me because I missed her because we had been co-writers together back at DC.
Those books you did at DC were great, by the way, mate. They're really good.
Thank you.
Yeah, and we've been working on stuff that in the meantime, but this was actually something that was going to be published and soon. But then David approached Michael and I and said, hey, we want to launch a separate book called Blade Runner Origins. And Alcon was really into it and showing the birth of the Blade Runner universe. And that seemed like a natural to bring Perkins on for that and have, a fresh voice. And she's got such a great talent for mixing big sci-fi ideas and action with amazing character moments. So Perkins, why don't you take it from there?
Yes. So when I came aboard, Mike decided he needed to go focus on 2029, and I didn't want to write Origins alone. And there was only one person I wanted to write with, if it couldn't be Mike, and that's the incredible Mellow Brown, who I actually worked with on a TV show for Apple TV called Calls. And when I met him, it was instant hello, best friend. He was a nerd, I was a nerd, and we really hit it off like gangbusters. And he has so much to contribute And I'm just so thrilled that he was available to come do the comic.
And yeah, everything that Perkins actually just said, and then I said yes.
Brilliant. And it's all worked out so fantastically well. The people seeing this panel might not know that, but I know that because I've seen the scripts and I've seen the way the book is shaping up, which is awesome. Big Guy, how about you? How did you get involved? Because you've been the editor on all the Blade Runner books, right?
Yeah, yes, right from the beginning, right since 2019. Although I think we started working on it in 2018. I think that's when we first started. I came on board because I had I've got quite a passion for older science fiction stuff. So I've done things like The Prisoner, I've done Dan Dare, I did Fighting American. So I'd already worked on those titles. So when I heard rumor of Blade Runner, I basically put myself forward because I love Blade Runner. I mean, I know exactly where I was when I first saw it. I've been a fan of it since 1982. I've lost count the number of times I've seen it. I mean, one of the great things is talking with Mike at the beginning was just lobbing back and forth Blade Runner references. I think we were trying to stand each other out to find out who knew the most about Blade Runner. For me, it was a no-brainer. It was a project that I just had to be involved in. So I put myself forward, and I was lucky enough to get it. You know, I was told, okay, you can edit it. So it was.
There wasn't really any other choice at Titan, mate.
There was no other choice.
Would have been nuts if they'd given it to anybody else. And to segue from the answer to my next question, and I'd like to start with you actually, Mellow. This is a question from our PR manager, Lauren Noding. Hello, Lauren. Thanks for setting everything up. It's quite a sweet question actually, because I know there's only one answer to this, and I'll show you what I mean. Hey, Lauren's asked, how old were you when you were first introduced to the Blade Runner world? Was it through the movies or through the comics? Well, I very much doubt anybody was first introduced here to Blade Runner through the comics. You know, I feel that's not possible. But Mellow, how were you first introduced to Blade Runner?
I was actually introduced through Tiny Toons, the cartoon.
That is the best answer of all time. Please carry on.
Due to just Blade Runner's impact on culture, and me being too young to watch it at a certain time, it still was just a part of science fiction so heavily that when you saw things like jokes about replicants in animated series and different things that it was crossing into culture, it immediately makes you start asking the question, just like, what is this thing? What is it about? Then try to watch it as a kid. They're like, I don't know, like I can't do it. And then like as time is like I was able to grow up into the franchise and kind of understand the explorations it has of identity. Then yeah, I found myself just falling in love with Blade Runner in time. Yeah.
No, I quite rightly so. How about yourself, Perkins? When did you first encounter it?
I come from a sci-fi nerd family, so it was just part of growing up to me. But I have one side of my family that is nerdy in one way, and then I have the other side of my family, because my parents are divorced, who are very much like ingrained into sci-fi culture. And when I was, I think, must have been a tween, my stepdad sat me down to watch Blade Runner, and he was like, "This is going to change your life. Here you go." And he was right. It really did open up a lot of my creativity, but also just the world is so intriguing, and I wanted to know more about it. And now seeing so many different AI stories, Blade Runner is really the one that I like go to because it is so iconic.
Yeah, I can see that. Mighty Mike Johnson, how about you?
I was turning 9 years old in 1982, but my parents wouldn't let me go see Blade Runner, even though I'd seen another Harrison Ford movie with Nazis' faces melting off.
Yeah.
Apparently, Blade Runner looks too grown up. So I first saw it on VHS, an old technology from the 20th century.
I love it.
And then I think I saw it in Chicago. I was growing up in Chicago at the time as a teenager, and they showed a re-release. I want to say it was the director's cut. There's so many cuts, but that was the first time I saw it on the big screen.
Yeah.
And the good thing about living in Los Angeles was every so often they show classic movies on the big screen. So, you know, whenever Blade Runner was showing, I'd run out and see it.
Yeah, quite right. Quite rightly so. Big guy, when did you first see it?
I got the comic. So I got the
Look
comic.
Look
I got
at that.
I've also got the paperback version of it. I could go and find on my shelves all the books that came out at the time, the making of. I've got the Blue Dolphin art edition. I've got I mean, I was obsessed with this film before it even opened. I mean, back then there was no internet. There was, you know, you only saw these things in the back of magazines. Like you, Sumner, I would have seen Starburst, which is a British science fiction magazine. There was Starlog. There was Phantasmagoria, all these sort of stuff. So I'd heard about Blade Runner. We knew it starred Harrison Ford. That's all we knew about it. I was so excited because it was new science fiction. Anything science fiction I had to go and see. And I saw it one Sunday morning in Shaftesbury Avenue, Odeon, with Ryan Hughes. And we got tickets through Starburst. So we saw a preview of it. And it was oversubscribed by 100%. So they filled the entire main cinema and they still had 200 people queuing. And they were close to a riot. So they took the first reel as soon as it was finished and showed it in the second screen and in the third screen. But I saw it in the main screen of the Odeon, Shaftesbury Avenue, and it changed my life. I was slightly older than you guys. I was 19 years old when it came out in '82, and I can remember all the hairs stood up on my arm when the Alan Ladd logo slowly appeared on the screen, and all the hairs stood up. I'd never seen an Alan Ladd.
That is a lot of hers, by the way.
Yeah, a lot of hairs. Jeez, tell me about it.
Yeah.
But I can remember.
Were you like a huge Alan Ladd fan?
No, it wasn't that. There was something
I'm
about
kidding.
it was the music. It was that. It seemed I'd never seen their logo before, so it seemed already right from the word go. It seemed science fictiony, and then when you suddenly cut to that fireball in the fireball in the eyeball, I was lost. I was completely captivated by it, and I can remember stumbling out the cinema, 2 hours later, just feeling my life had changed. And the one thing I remember is that there were two blokes in front of us, and one turned to the other and said, "Well, that was shit." And I was like, "Well, I want to kill you," because for me,
his name was Ridley Scott.
But I just felt like
I'm sorry, I just wasn't feeling it that day, mate. What can I tell you? I liked it when I saw it the second time, though.
Oh, I first time I loved it because I don't know, it's just something about it. Every now and again you see a film and it just completely clicks, and I just thought it was the most remarkable thing I'd ever seen. I was absolutely in love with it, and I saw it. I remember I was at art college, so I went to art college on Monday, and I just raved about it. And as soon as it opened at the cinema, I saw it 5 times in the first week. I just thought it was extraordinary.
Christ, mate, you really need to edit a Blade Runner comic. That would be my recommendation, based upon your high level love for that IP. So, guys, you're working with the amazing artist Fernando Dagnino, a wonderful artist. How much influence do you have with your scripts, the work that he's doing? What's your process like working with Fernando? Are you just doing it through the editorial team? Do you have direct contact? How does that go down?
I think a lot. Go for it, Perkins. I think a lot of trust has been built up a bit more over time. It was a lot of conversations at first of just like, hey, we want to go with the Blade Runner look, the classic style within like our first couple issues, and just kind of like amp it up to have a lot of like intense action in there as well. And then and like this character is going to be doing some weird stuff, and we're going to check that out and visit exactly what this is going to feel like. And we started getting our layouts back, and then we started talking to I talked to Fernando pretty regularly over Twitter, and he's just like, this is really fun, and I'm like, you rule. Let's make this let's do some stuff we haven't seen in Cyberpunk yet.
Yeah.
We have new environments coming, new types of characters. I'm like, how do you feel about someone in a simulated Italy punching and kicking 2 people in the face while shooting someone through a roof? And he's like, this rules. So our relationship is it's pretty good, I want to say.
Yeah. I mean, the artwork is really amazing. And I know it's something that everybody who touches the book like Titan, and we've said this when we've chatted before, is just incredibly proud of it, and everybody looks at it and they're blown away. To see it realized that way, it's
really
just
does.
really exciting.
He really does elevate what words that we put on the page. He takes it to a whole new level of our imaginations. I know that I speak for myself, but I'm sure Mello would agree that whatever we commit to page, we think is like, oh, okay, yeah, this is pretty great. And then we see it actualized by Fernando, and it's even greater than we could have possibly imagined.
I mean, from my point of view, I think that both Fernando and also Angus on 2029, who started off in 2019, both of them, they're so good at what they do, but they're so, neither one of them is copying the other. They have their own unique styles, own unique way of telling stories. But what I love about it is that they both capture the city, which I think is such an important character. You know, they capture, both of those artists capture the essence of Blade Runner, the whole Los Angeles. I think that Fernando is sensational. I think Angus is sensational. I think we actually lucked out with both of them. I really do. I can't think of anyone who could have done a better job. I think also because they're both Spanish, they have their approach to the story is different. They're not classic American artists or British artists. They have their own unique way of drawing, and I think it's you look at their work and you can't see where the influences come from. It feels fresh, it feels different, it feels new, and I think that's what makes it work. They're both fantastic storytellers.
I think that's very well said. Now, guys, this series is all about the origin of the replicants, the Blade Runner unit we know and love, and we get to learn about how the Blade Runners came into being. What do you think it is about the concept of artificial intelligence that really interests human beings here at the beginning of the 21st century?
I guess a big part of that would actually be looking at the idea of an intelligence and an entire, potentially what could become a culture without a lot of hangups that we currently have as human beings. The entire concept of the franchise itself is looking into identity and characters realizing who they are, whether it's a Blade Runner realizing, usually by the end of whatever story of a Blade Runner, of who they actually want to be. Usually it's not a Blade Runner, or a replicant discovering that they are in a place where they discover the word "I want," and kind of evolving from there. When we look into everything involving artificial intelligence, it doesn't have a lot of the biases that we've grown up with. It's a new life that just exists. And there's something really cool about exploring what identity looks like without any of those biases.
Yeah, okay, that's very interesting. How about yourself, Perkins?
Well, we really wanted to explore not so much how replicants are made, but when they come into being, it's how they're utilized to solve a problem or fulfill a need in this era, this moment in time in the Blade Runner universe. But really, what we're exploring beyond that is how that ultimately solves or creates more problems, and what does that look like as a result of their being. So I think that is a kind of a standard question for every AI property, is that yes, it does solve problems, but ultimately ends up creating more. So what is the way that we answer this in the Blade Runner universe? And I think we're doing some really cool stuff to try to answer that question.
Now, with regard to the cool stuff that you guys are doing, when the series opens, a staff member of Tyrell has died, and you have a new protagonist, Detective Cal Moreau, who's new to readers and to the Tyrell Corporation. So what was it that you wanted Cal as a lead character to represent to the audience, to the readership? What are you exploring through that character?
I think happily it's going to be a conversation in regards to how everyone in that world is feeling right now in 2009. And he's a great reflection of that. In regards to him being formerly military and then feeling himself being replaced by, within our intro, which is a really dope space battle like that, involving replicants. And replicants kind of taking the place of many soldiers in the same way that we're doing with drones and our present day reality. And him having to convert over to being a police officer due to capitalism kind of forcing him into that space, and being put in positions where it's a lot of times it's actually challenging not only him as a person in terms of the things that he is realizing, like, do I actually know what I want? Or am I just moving around due to the fact that I'm being replaced? And this is also challenging me and my race and my relationship with law enforcement, with my environment, with who I am going forward. So he has about as many questions about himself as a replicant would, as they start to discover things about themselves.
That is such an interesting parallel, I think. And so it must be such an interesting thing for you guys to explore as writers.
100%. Yeah.
So Mike, how different is the world of Blade Runner 2009 to the world of Blade Runner 2029?
Yeah, that's what's really cool about this is you get to see. I mean, we always thought we'd go ahead, and we have gone into the future of Blade Runner in the movies and in the comics. But this is a chance to go backwards, and I don't imagine any of us or any fans thought we'd ever get to see this, which is the origins of the Blade Runner unit and also the evolution of replicants themselves. They weren't always, they didn't always look like Rutger Hauer. They were simpler versions. If the evolution is from a toaster to a perfect simulacrum of a human being, in 2009, we're seeing some of the evolutionary steps there. And yeah, Perkins and Mellow just took that idea and just ran with it. I think fans are going to be both just entertained, but also surprised on an issue by issue basis.
Yeah.
So
I agree with that.
but sorry, to answer your question a little bit more specifically, 2009, we're seeing really the growth of the Tyrell Corporation. Whereas in 2019, with the monumental pyramids, it's established and replicants are out there everywhere. Whereas in 2009, you're just starting to see how they're infiltrating society. And
yeah. I mean, another question that kind of rolls on from that about the 2009 to 2029 thing. This is another question that Lauren asked me to ask you guys, is that the world of Blade Runner is obviously more technologically advanced than our own real world in some ways. But what would you say are the key differences between the human world in 2009 versus the fictional world that you're creating, in the world of Blade Runner? Can you speak as to some of the key differences?
They don't have flat screen TVs and mobile phones.
internet.
The internet.
I would definitely say it is ambition without filter, which is a human annihilation level of flaw that we have. It's creation without someone saying, like, there's no Jeff Goldblum there. They'd be like, you thought you made this, but you never thought about, like, should we make this kind of thing?
Yeah.
And there's no restriction clearly on pollution. If you look at Mike's background, which is, I'm not sure if that's actual LA right now, but and
it's very close.
It's San Diego, 2021.
And like, there's such a need for progress, but the thing that we don't really remember is that progress stops for no one, not even the person pursuing it, and it is just as likely to crush us. So thankfully in 2009 we had environmental regulations in our world. In the Blade Runner universe, not so much. And so we're actually going to be seeing a lot of the results of what happens when technology isn't filtered and things are just pushed forward and rushed ahead. And what does that do to people? Who does that affect first? And who is benefiting from that? And who is compliant and just 100% complicit to a lot of the destruction that could cause? And who are the people who are actually trying to push this forward, no matter what the cost is?
Yeah, that's so interesting. So it's essentially, it's the absence of checks and balances which has given birth to the Blade Runner world that you guys are talking about. And I guess you're talking about the first real stages of that development as it then goes on through the books that Mike's created.
I think it's, if you look at the history of any technological advancements, often this technology rushes ahead of lawmakers, and so for a while it's lawless. There's no laws in place, and so law has to catch up with it. If you look at what the Victorians are doing and the incredible technological advances that Victorians brought in, and yet there were no laws to stop them from what was happening. You know, if there had been environmental laws back in Victorian times, and so they actually controlled what was happening, we wouldn't have the situation we do now. And you look at what, especially in the Blade Runner, that you have these replicants that are being created, and it's clearly that their society hasn't got round to saying, hey, hang on a minute, maybe we should be. And when they do finally get round to it, it's a bit late. The horse has bolted, you know, the barn's on fire. So I think that's what's interesting, is that you have technology which is opened up all these doors, and no one's prepared for it, and so suddenly it's exploded everywhere, and the human race is almost trying to play catch up, and they can't do it. It's a losing battle. Ultimately, the humans will lose because they haven't got control of it, and they never do. Technology is never controlled in a proper way. It always races ahead. We're all doomed. We're all going to die.
Oh yeah. That's a given, mate. Yeah, I mean, it's a fact, you know. Hey, at least we're not sitting here in the middle of a global climate catastrophe and a global pandemic, which is killing people by the hundreds of thousands. Things could get that bad at one point. Who knows? So moving along, what things? Let me ask you all. What things did you, or think in terms of including to put your own stamp on the series? How do you think you each have made a difference to the world of Blade Runner? What do you think you brought to the process? I know this is a very difficult question to answer without appearing to be tremendously self-aggrandizing. So I'll say that as a given, but, you know, please be without humility when you're answering this question and go as large as possible.
Self-aggrandize. That's fine.
I was actually going to ask Perkins permission. Like, can I be super self-aggrandizing? Like,
yes, get it done.
Go for it. I was going to do the same.
I'm really proud in terms of the things that we brought in is accessibility in a level that I think a lot of people have been hoping for within the cyberpunk universe. And that goes for every cyberpunk universe. We wanted to kind of actually take the chance to look at this world where what happens when a neon turns off for like 5 minutes and you were walking around this universe. You'd be like, oh, this is terrible. This is kind of a weird place. Everyone is just this weird dirt color that is indescribable, and everything's silver and copper, and like it's the neon is there so that way it's acceptable. What do the people that we've seen in the background of every Blade Runner story actually do? What are they thinking about? How are they surviving? And being able to actually explore new environments and this constantly growing cast of characters that we have, and these different alliances, these different stories, these different backgrounds, and we're going to be exploring what is it like to just exist in a world like this. And a big part of that also is that I think we've been having a lot of fun, especially lately, in showing that everything in cyberpunk doesn't have to be so down and like kind of like everything's like real terrible. The community that humans build during crisis can be a really, really awesome place. And it doesn't always have to be in downtown LA in Blade Runner. Going just like a little bit east and exploring how so many cultures made of refugees kind of like band together and build these new cultures and create something cool and very distinct to cyberpunk in a way that we haven't seen before is such a really dope adventure. But yeah.
I think that is a great answer, because I think what you've touched upon is something that's reflected in the society in which we're existing at the moment, which is that absolutely the nature of the human spirit is that even in the darkest of times, there are positive moments. And the problem when you've got a 2.5 hour movie is you've got to focus on the propulsive narrative of that movie. But you can't get into the background going, hey, there are people making the best of this. A good example would be like the conversation we're all having now, you know, where during the course of the last year, I've been stuck in my lounge for like over a year, right? But I now have a ton of friends and acquaintances that I simply didn't have beforehand, because I've had all of these, all of these Zoom YouTube chats with people. And actually my friendship network is bigger than it ever was, and that with generally with people who are congenial and like-minded and are interested in the same thing. So that's a real positive. How about yourself, Perkins?
Well, when we first were thinking about what kinds of characters were in this story and what story we wanted to tell, it was really important to me to, as Mellow so beautifully said, just to see what was going on with the other people in this universe that we know exists, that we haven't seen on pages or in film. And just coming from communities like the LGBTQ community, I know that these people exist in the BRU, in the Blade Runner universe, but I want to see what do their lives look like. So we have a character, Davina, who is a drag queen proprietress from in a club that predates the Snake Pit. So like I wanted to have fun with those questions that we get to answer, and it's so cool that we get to answer them. What would this look like? This version of our world, this part of our world, what would that look like in the Blade Runner universe? And it's a lot of fun to do that, and I really wanted to thread that through. So we really wanted to highlight those characters in the LGBTQ community and also in BIPOC communities as well.
Man, that's brilliant. I mean, I've got to say, Mellow, Perkins, these answers are really making me want the audience who are going to be watching this panel to have the book in front of them and be able to look at it and, read it, which they're going to be able to very soon. But yeah, exactly. I mean, we're going to have a bunch of pre-order links for how you get the books attached to the panel. And Mike, how about yourself, mate? I mean, you've been involved in the debut issue of Blade Runner Origins with Perkins and Mellow, and then you've straddled like a titan all of the, no pun intended, all of the Blade Runner books we've published so far. So how's it been for you, placing the Johnson imprint on these pages?
Is there a Johnson imprint at Titan now?
Yeah, that's right. We call it, me and Leach call them the MJ books. What's happening with the MJ books? Yeah.
Well, honestly, the best thing that I could hope I added was to have the opportunity to invite Perkins and by extension Mellow into the creation of these books. I mean, you had two white guys writing them, right?
Yeah.
And it was like time for new voices, and it just, I think and this goes back to the 2019 book with Ash. Michael and I just wanted to show a Blade Runner that we hadn't seen before. I mean, we had Harrison Ford and we had Ryan Gosling, but we wanted a Blade Runner with a little bit more personality. And that's no reflection on the actors or any of that. But I feel like Ash and then with Cal, we're diving deeper into the character of a Blade Runner, why you would choose to do that job, which is essentially assassinating, by all appearances, people who are just trying to escape. Who does that job? So comics are such a great opportunity to do that kind of thing in a way that 2-hour movies, 3-hour movies can't do. And even a television show. I mean, comics, you can go right into the mind of the character. And you're not sort of beholden to the pacing of a movie or a TV show. And luckily, the fans have supported the book so that we get to do more. I mean, Origins exists because the fans stuck with it and want more Blade Runner. So at the end of the day, we just thank them. And I think once they see what Origins is, they're just going to be hooked. Yeah. So I'm excited to see the reaction because I know people are going to love it.
Yeah, amen to that, guys. It really is a special book. Yeah. I know I'm in the business of saying that, but the reality is that it's really exciting. I mean, Big Guy, we're very excited about this book, right?
Yeah, absolutely. Jesus Christ, of course I am. Yeah, I mean, it's glorious. I love it. I'm so sorry, I sound surprised just because it's almost like doesn't everybody know already? You know, I mean, it really is. It's sort of when what we do with the book, once it's ready, we circulate it internally when we get everything finished. And everyone's comments came back. You know, these are from other hardened editors, and they all just said, "God, this first issue is fantastic." And they're not just blowing smoke. You know, they're sort of, their job is to find mistakes and find faults, and they've just come back saying it's great, it's fantastic, which is for me, I'm absolutely thrilled about. You know, I mean, I can't, for me personally, I can't tell you how honored I am to be part of this. You know, I'm just a small cog in it, but I'm thrilled. I mean, to be part of the Blade Runner universe is a dream come true. It really is.
Yeah, right.
Is Origins. I love it. I bloody love it. I mean, guys, well done. I mean, you've blown up the ballpark. Not so much not the ball out of it. You destroyed it.
That's true. And those hardened editors David was referring to, the Titan bullpen is essentially the Warriors, but just kind of relocated into the magazine business. Do you know what I mean? It's a pretty tough environment. So, you know, to deliver a book that's going to impress all of those very fearsome people is an amazing achievement. You know what I mean? Absolutely. And like I said, it's genuine joy when your scripts come in, genuine joy when the pages come in. And on that note, I'd like to just ask you guys a bit about process. So with regard to the first issue, which the three of you wrote together, and then the series where it's Mellow and Perkins, what's your process to dividing the writing workload? How do you put the scripts together?
Well, we came up. Oh, sorry, Mellow, do you want to answer? We came up with a general story arc, and then plotted each issue, the 12 issues off of that story arc. And what Mellow and I do, so Mellow and I have our individual meetings, but then we also have a think tank Blade Runner general meeting with Mike. And we just pass ideas around, and then give feedback on each other's scripts. And that's how the nitty-gritty works. But those big overarching, where do we see 2009 bleeding into 2019 and 2029 and beyond, we have those conversations, and we're really intentional about what's said and then done in those meetings. Yeah,
okay, that's very interesting. And is that same for you, Mellow? Any added wrinkles on that, or does that sum it all up for you?
Totally in that process. But I think the one thing I would add is that we also feel very lucky to be able to work on this particular book, where we've started to add so much of ourselves into the story. There are experiences that these characters have that we haven't seen before, and a lot of that is being pulled heavily from things that like Perkins has experienced and I've experienced, which is important in writing, but especially for this particular franchise, where it's entirely an exploration of identity and where we stand in that place, and kind of figuring out who you are and then holding your ground, because this is a world that's going to push back against it. And usually the people who can survive anywhere going forward in this universe are the people who start to realize who they are, which is like the ultimate challenge in Blade Runner. So us being able to divide the parts where it's just like, I'm feeling this character today especially, and where they would be within this crisis, has been really cool to divide up and kind of like talk through that stuff. It's been like little therapy sessions as we've been working through this.
Yeah, so true.
Yeah, no, that makes a lot of sense. Now when we're talking about writing as therapy, I wanted to ask you about the literal process. So as an editor of fiction and as a journalist, I edit fiction and I write articles, but I don't write creatively like you guys. But I know as a writer in the fields in which I work that my process is very much, there's a load of procrastination involved in it. And I get most of my work done between midnight and 4 a.m. because I just can't knuckle down to doing it before then. And I'm pretty nocturnal anyway, which is why we can often record these meetings so late in the UK. Yeah. But every writer I've ever worked with has a slightly different process, and I'm fascinated what yours are. When you sit down and you're facing the blank page, how do you start? How do you get it done? Are you regimented? Are you loose? I'd just love to hear, you know, how that works for you guys.
Andrew, I'm so happy you mentioned that. Last night was my first night of kind of like testing the water of nocturnal writing. Yeah. And I immediately got like 7 to 8 pages done, really great scenes.
Right.
Like it's just, yeah, like everything is man, like everything is quiet. Everything is like in a perfect mood. It is great. So that may be my new process starting like, you know, like immediately after this. So yeah.
Yeah, the absolute nocturnalists of the world unite there, Mellow. I couldn't agree more. I think it's brilliant.
I would actually like to take an opposite position, which is I used to be nocturnal, but I now like to go to bed stupidly early and get up stupidly early and actually get work done first thing in the morning. In the winter, there is something absolutely glorious about getting up when it's dark outside, where the whole world is silent and you start working. It is exhilarating. And then you watch as the light comes up and the world awakens around you. And I love that time in the morning where you're on your own. I find at nighttime, you've had a whole day, you're completely wired, but in the morning you wake up and I get so much more done starting early in the morning. So I as much as I like the romance of the nocturnal writing, I'm a big fan of getting up early.
Well, I try to sleep in as late as possible because by that time you guys are probably asleep in the UK and I can ignore. So like if I wake up around 2 o'clock here and PM there,
you
get some work done.
So true though. He does.
I know.
Oh, no, it's true. It's like it's these. Have you heard from Johnson? Oh, he takes 1 day to respond, mate. You're not going to hear back from him today. I mean, do you email him today? You'll hear back tomorrow.
Yeah.
It's brilliant that you're so honest about that, mate. And
I want people to learn what not to do. Any aspiring writers out there?
You heard it, aspiring writers.
How to avoid your editor. Very important skill.
That should be your first. That should be the name of your autobiography. The title of your autobiography.
How to avoid your editor.
How to avoid your editor.
Yeah. Perkins, how about yourself?
Perkins, I want to hear Perkins.
Yeah.
Well, just as much as I made fun of him, he's going to make fun of me for this. But I am up I'm like David, 6 a.m.
Yay!
I'm just a very type A person trying to do a type B job. Like it's, very creative and loosey-goosey, but I need structure. I need deadlines. I need to know what hours of the day I'm writing. And my day is very structured. It's also because I'm balancing a lot. I write for a TV show and I've got other things going on. So I need to make sure I schedule in my Blade Runner time.
Perks, is the whiteboard in the room with you right there? Your whiteboards?
Yes, but I will not show it. I do get it.
Okay. But you have 2 whiteboards.
Wow, not just one, but 2.
I have 2. I have one whiteboard that is smaller that's dedicated to everything that I need to do by project. And then, oh my gosh, I'm just shooting myself in the foot here.
Is the other whiteboard an instruction manual for the other whiteboard?
I have many. And then my big whiteboard is great because I have lots of little note cards, that magnetized note cards where I can write beats out and follow, story structure. I can really plot things out that way. But I'm very structured that way. But I know Mike likes to listen to a certain type of music when he's writing Blade Runner stuff. I do the same. My algorithm on Spotify is all messed up because of all of the crazy music I listen to.
Actually, whenever I have to start a script, I start the Blade Runner 2049 soundtrack because it starts with this like percussion beat really strongly, and then you get the synths, but it's almost become like a thing where I can't start writing it until I hear it. So I just put it on. And it's like soaking in Blade Runner. It's great.
I love it. I actually, it's interesting you say that because I always write to Ben Webster, who is one of the great tenor saxophonists who recorded for Verve in the 50s and 60s, my great hero. And I've loved Ben Webster all my life. My dad was a jazz drummer. Basically, because I always write to it, I can't relax to it anymore. So if I used to fall asleep listening to Ben Webster, but I put Ben Webster on now, I don't fall asleep. I've got to flip back to, listening to Miles Davis or something in order to get that kick. But if I hear Ben Webster, my brain just starts ticking over. So I guess it's funny how you begin. The great thing about music is it's supremely associative, right? And like when you're involved in creative endeavor, if you're used to that bizarro playlist you've got on Spotify, and that's what you play when you're writing, your brain absolutely channels through all of that. I think it's a fascinating thing. Now,
There's a trend on I've been watching TikTok videos just for pure amusement, and there's a trend on TikTok that's using the Blade Runner 2049 soundtrack, using that in a lot of videos. So I'll just, as I'm brushing my teeth, I'll just be cruising TikTok and hear it, and all of a sudden my brain starts thinking about our characters and what they need to do, and I'm like, no, not time to do that. It's time to go to bed.
I was just going to say about the music thing. I find that I listen to two different types of music, which is if I'm writing, I can't listen to anything with lyrics. I can only listen to instrumentals. Otherwise, the lyrics start confusing my brain. But if I'm drawing, then I listen to lyrics, or I listen to audiobooks. So if I'm writing, if I'm doing editing, I'm listening to a lot of Lemon Jelly. I listen to I got into a band called Salt recently. I think absolutely fantastic. That is quite lyric based, but it's but I can try and almost zone it out. So I want stuff that will help my brain almost reach a neutral level so I can actually access it.
I think that's interesting, big guy. I spoke to Dave Gibbons the other day, and it was exactly that he was saying. Because he's an artist, he can listen to lyrical music, and he can listen to audiobooks while he's painting. Yeah, and it's no problem. Are
you talking about Dave Gibbons, the co-creator of Watchmen? Did you just drop that in?
I did just drop that. I just dropped that. Oh yeah, our mate Dave. I was chatting to him the other day. Yeah. He created this comic book. Yeah, I can't remember the name. Yeah. Anyway, that's what he was saying. Guys, we are racing to the end of this glorious panel. So I have a closing question for you all. And I'd like to start with you, Mellow. And it's, if you could bring something from the Blade Runner world into our own right now, what would it be?
There's not a whole lot I would bring. There's so much in that universe that is exactly like a replicant and is just triggered to explode or break at any moment. Yep. And the thing that I mean, like there's a point in our story where we have a pierogi making robot, or replicant, I should say. And that is, I don't know, that's kind of cool.
Yeah. I mean, I know it's a tough question because you're dealing with this, like, on one level, Byzantine and dysfunctional universe, and saying, hey, what would you like to have here? When part of that experience might be, really, maybe not that much of it. How about yourself, Perkins?
I'll have two answers.
I love it. Okay, let's have both.
A fake one and then a real one.
Yeah. I love the fact that you've identified them that way in advance. Maybe we should guess which one is which.
I think it'll be pretty clear what is fake and what is real. I would bring two things then. You can choose what is real and what is fake. I think the fashion in the Blade Runner universe, especially as Fernando draws it, is so cool. The freedom of expression, and just the diversity of how people are dressing, I think is really cool, all from, head to toe. And then the other thing that I would bring in is just the total unquestioning of BIPOC and women and LGBTQ people in their positions of power and skill, and not having that be questioned at all.
Amen. I think that's absolutely bang on right. I think that's correct. Yeah.
So what's real and what's the real and what's
I think you're right. The real answer has presented itself very, very ably, and here is what I say to that. Yeah, absolutely right. Yeah, right on. Mike, how about yourself?
It's actually sitting right here on my desk. Is the
oh yeah, all right, yeah,
fantastic. Reminds me that it reminds me that Deckard's a replicant. Actually, that's what it reminds me. Anyway.
Excellent. How about yourself, big guy?
I'd bring one of these. I'd bring a spinner.
Right. Okay, makes.
I mean, I can't believe none of you Perkins, your answers were brilliant, but none of you would bring a flying car. I mean, come on.
And
You know how many spinners we've crashed
I know.
in all of our books?
I know.
How much we've crashed.
That's why I've got a second one. So if I crash the first, I've got a second one.
It's actually more unique if a spinner lands safely.
You know what's beautiful about your answer, big guy, is of the 5 people on the panel, there is at least one person on this panel that I know for sure can't actually drive. And that person is the one who wants to bring a spinner into the universe. Do you know what I mean? Yeah, the big guy can't drive a car. So can neither of your kids drive these days?
Our
Mate?
Ambitions.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah, I've realized now after all these years, it's like I'm not going to learn until I can drive a spinner.
Yeah, that's it. Until I can fly, I'm not interested in learning. No, I mean the thing is, I'm a city boy. There's no reason to drive in it if you live in a city.
Mate, you've never lived in Los Angeles. You need to drive if you live in Los Angeles. That's for
I
sure.
didn't drive till I moved to LA. I grew up in Chicago.
Yeah,
you took the train and the bus.
Yeah, I didn't start driving until I got to Denver and then here because I lived in New York.
Yeah,
exactly. There we are. So
no, it's
walking here. I'm walking here.
Real cities with an actual civic center with history attached to it. You can always navigate those places. You're right. Of course, Los Angeles isn't that, right? It's something else entirely. It is the proto world of Blade Runner, of course. Guys, we have run out of time for WonderCon 2021, the Titan Comics panel dedicated to your marvelous book, created by the 3 authors here, Kay Perkins, Mellow Brown, Mighty Mike Johnson, and edited by David Leach, and with amazing art by Fernando Dagnini.
And colouring by Marco Lesco.
Oh yeah, always include the colorist. Excellent, mate.
He's brilliant.
Very
He's
good.
absolutely brilliant.
And Marco, your work is phenomenal, mate.
And Jim Campbell, our letterer.
Thank you.
Yeah, very good. Always include the letterer.
Yeah,
right. Lauren, if you're watching this panel, put everybody on the notes. Let's get it done. Yeah, no, too right, because both the colors and the letters are phenomenal. Yeah. This panel has been dedicated to this wonderful book created by these supremely talented people. Thank you very much for joining us for WonderCon 2021. You're going to find the links where to find and pre-order Blade Runner Origins from all the links attached to this panel. And it is lovely to see you, everybody. And everyone on the panel right here with me, Mellow, Mike, Perkins, Big Guy. It's great to see you all. Thank you very much. Thanks for your wonderful work.
Thanks, guys. Nice to see you.
Thank you, my friend. Thank you so much.
Take care, everyone.